guys, it's Steve with Prima Coffee. I'm here at Host 2017 in Milan, Italy. It's the last day of the show. It's been 4 days. I've seen some pretty exciting stuff. This is one of the biggest shows for the hotel, restaurant, food service industry, so lots of really cool coffee stuff to look at. You've seen some familiar brands like La Marzocco and Sanremo, Mazzer, Mahlkonig, that kind of thing. But we've got a lot of new interesting products that we weren't quite expecting to see here. So this is a great show because it's huge, and a lot of people tend to show off their newest stuff, their coolest stuff, some concepts and things that aren't quite ready for release yet. But there's a lot of stuff that's really cool, plenty to look at, and some stuff that's coming to us in 2018. So we've got a whole lot of highlights to take a look at. Here's our little reel. So this is the new updated EK43. There's a few somewhat significant things going on, as well as some more minor updates. Probably the biggest thing that you'll notice is we have a couple of sort of what seem like cosmetic changes here and here. We have a new rubber gasket that's actually meant as waterproofing. Not exactly a big deal for most of us. We're not dumping water on our grinders. This is mainly just a certifications thing. We also have new buttons, and these buttons are actually meant to stand up to the repeated on and off cycles that we see in modern cafes more and more. So they're rated to a larger number of presses, and the micro switches behind the buttons are also rated to more presses than the standard EK43 that we have right now. So these are rolling out beginning in early 2018. We'll start to expect to see them in stock probably first quarter in the United States, but we'll have them on the way, and they're basically replacing the old version, so we'll see lots of these. Inside here we actually have a one-piece milled aluminum grind chamber, so that will cut down on a little bit of the thermal transfer. It also makes it a little bit more precise to machine on their production side of things. Up front we have a new dial. Just a new sticker. Overall grind range is the same, but your actual indications are going to be slightly different from the previous styles. The actual knob here, there's a change on the inside there's an adjustment screw that actually changes how firm the adjustment is. So if you want it to be very easy to go back and forth between extreme ranges, you can kind of loosen it, or you can tighten it for more precise adjustments. Say you're doing espresso and you want to kind of dial in that way. We also have a new machined foot down at the bottom, as well as new power cord placement, plus new feet. So these aren't plastic feet anymore, they're actually steel. So overall, kind of interesting changes. The burrs are the same, performance is more or less the same. There is a new pre-breaker inside, plus a new machined aluminum burr carrier, plus new stainless steel shear plates. So performance might change a little bit with these grinders. The pre-breaker being different, it's not a steel spring coil anymore. So it's a different profile. It might do different braking. It might create a slightly different grind uniformity or overall kind of grind profile. But still, performance is expected to be the same, and your lifespan on the grinder is expected to be better, mainly because that shear plate is going to be a little bit stronger. It can stand up to the on and off cycles a little bit better, and a lot of these changes are actually made to reduce stress on the motor. So EK43, going to see some updates this year. Pretty exciting. All right, here we have the EK43S. This is a new short version of the EK43. Inside you see pretty much the same stuff as you see in the EK43, just you have an overall difference in height. The stature is much shorter. I don't have the exact measurements, but you can compare it to a classic EK43 right here. You see probably about 8 to 10 inches of height difference with the large or the medium-sized hopper on, but we actually have in the works a new sort of funnel dosing hopper. So if you're going to do some single dosing, you get a bayonet style funnel, a little bit of there's a magnet for any debris and whatever, but you can just dump your beans right in, pop out the stop, grind your dose. So you can have a much shorter grinder with the same grind performance as that classic EK43. Really, I mean, again, not a whole lot else is different here. We're still looking at the same burrs. We're still looking at the same motor. We've reduced the footprint slightly. So if you have some counters in your cafe or in your home kitchen, and you need to stick a grinder underneath it, or you've got cabinets, this guy's going to stand maybe 20 inches or so. So it might be a little bit too tall for some settings, but if you are looking for more vertical space in your cafe and you're doing some espresso or just small batch grinding, say you do pour overs or something, and that's your main use of an EK43, you can get one of these funnels. You got a nice compact grinder package that's going to give you amazing performance. So that is the EK43S, expected sometime first quarter 2018, so get excited, people. All right, here we have the new Mythos 2 by Nuova Simonelli, or Victoria Arduino if you like. This is the gravimetric version. It has a load sensor built into the portafilter forks, so it's going to actually grind your doses by weight. Very cool technology. So we have 3 settable settings here. You can grind by weight or on the timer model by time. We also have some new additions to the controls that you have. Still has the Climber Pro technology, but now you can actually change your grind chamber temperature. So you can go into the menu, you can change that if you like. We can also change grind speed. So I've had a couple of different conversations about this in terms of how that affects your grind quality, or even why it's included on this grinder. One reason was production. If you want to have a high grind throughput and you have a lot of customers to serve, you can turn it up to 1200 RPM and just crank out your shots. It's going to build a little extra heat because you're grinding faster, but if you need the volume, you can get the volume. However, we've actually seen some demonstrations of how RPM affects shot quality and shot flavor. So you could turn your grind speed down a little bit, dial in that way, turn the grind speed up, and see how that affects flavor. We were served 3 shots in a row that had 3 different RPMs. Interesting differences in flavor, somewhat subtle, but there might be some potential there. So we'll see how people use this once it's actually implemented. We also have a larger burr set here, 85 millimeter burrs, but still coated, still long life, and still mounted at the same angle. So somewhat different in grind quality. We'll also see how that affects flavor and everything when it comes out. Final little update that we have here, we have a new spout and actually a new clump crusher. So it's easier to service, easier to replace parts, easier to remove. So that's just going to make your maintenance life a little bit easier. So overall, some cosmetic updates as well as some new features and new performance. The Sanremo Revo 3 has triple hoppers with a Kaya Orion dosing tech inside, so multiple grind chutes will dose your coffee, allowing for custom blending before grinding. The adjustment can be run from espresso to filter. We have 100 millimeter black coated burrs inside, large flat burrs. We have a portafilter fork down below the grind chute, and fairly minimal retention inside the burrs. Sanremo is still working on overall tweaks and things prior to release, but we have lots of potential as a very excellent espresso and filter grinder. Another interesting thing is that we have electronic grind control adjustment. So they use a stepper motor that will pull the burrs back. Might be difficult to see, but you can pull the burrs back and forth fairly precisely using a motor and using its position and number of steps across the way. So we also have a large touchscreen control on the front. We have 3 doses that you can program in. You can change grind speed setting, you can change the amount of coffee to deliver, you can change the grind adjustment itself. So you can store multiple doses and programs for filter and espresso simultaneously. The grinder will just adjust the burrs as needed. A little bit of purging might be necessary, and there is a manual button to do a manual grind purge. But overall, very, very exciting grinder. Lots of potential. We can't wait for the custom blending to be better incorporated, so we can see what that's like to actually change your grind blending on the fly, as well as record that in your program profiles. So that's the Sanremo Revo 3. Very exciting. The new Mazzer Robur S, this is the electronic version, features a lot of the same features as the original Robur. We have the same size burr set, but there's a lot of small upgrades as well as a few kind of time-saving features as well as quality features that will make life easier in the cafe. Down below we've got a new power switch, very easy to turn on and off, and quite a hefty little knob to make it really easy to turn that switch. Up top we have a newly styled hopper. It's a more robust plastic material, less prone to breakage. Same thing with the actual collar hopper attachment here. This isn't the final version, but they want it to be a sturdier material, one that doesn't have that problem where you tighten it down and it tips backward as much. So it'll be a much snugger fit. Slightly different grind adjustment collar, same screw adjustment, but now we actually have this really cool feature. This is an adjustable 0 point, so let's say you get to the end of the life of your burrs and you need to change where 0 is when you install a new set. You can do that, and then there's a little bit of a screw that you just lock it down with. So you can make adjustments as needed, especially after doing maintenance or burr replacement, that sort of thing. Now, you also notice that we have this two-tone. We have the new grind chamber that's separate from the body housing, so it will cut down on thermal transfer from the motor. So you're going to be grinding a little bit cooler, even in a high volume environment. We also have, you'll notice these little pegs. This is a new system, patented system that they've created to make removing the burrs easier. This whole top section lifts out, so you can get to the burrs, you can clean them, you can reinstall a new set. If you're keeping the same burrs, that actually means that you preserve your settings, so you don't need to dial back in quite as much once you get the burrs back on after cleaning. So that's a really handy feature. On the electronic side of things, we have a new electronic system. There is a new control panel, nice bright LCD screen, 3 settings plus a manual purge, and then a whole bunch of menu options here. So there's counting features, there's time features, some really great stuff going on in the electronics that we'll have to cover in an overview video, just because these videos are going to be a little bit brief here. But just like the ZM, we have a swivel open and a little bit of like a magnetic latch there. I can't show it to you, but there's a new screen behind the finger guard here, the clump buster, newly designed. They say it helps reduce the retention of the grinder, gives you a more fluffy grind. They have said that the Robur S has 52% reduction in grind retention, which is still around 15 to 18 grams on the S, but that's much improved from the classic Robur, which could retain up to 30 grams even. So that's a pretty big improvement, but again, this is a high volume grinder. Cutting down retention is great, but you're probably also running through a lot of coffee anyway. They also have a new polish on the inside of the dosing funnel, so it's going to hold on to less coffee. You'll have less blockage, less static cling and everything. So overall, tons of great new features in this Robur S. We think it's going to be a pretty great improvement on that classic Robur design.